Hello everybody. I'm making a quick video here to try to help clarify the concept of excluded values. When we're talking about excluded values, what we're talking about is what you see here on the screen, the answer key for our second day's homework. You see this example that x can't be 0 and x can't be negative 5/3. Those are what we call excluded values. The reason they're excluded is because the bottom of a fraction can never be 0. That's something we all know. You can't divide by 0. And because the bottom can't be 0, we look at the problem and say, alright, what values would cause this fraction to not exist? Those would be the values that would make the bottom be 0. So if we look at number 1 here, when you factor it, you have two factors, 10x and 3x plus 5. Before we reduce, we state our excluded values. And we look at the first factor, 10 times x. If x were 0, that would make the bottom be 0. So therefore x can't be 0. Also, we have a second factor, 3x plus 5. And in that factor, we say, what would make x be 0? Well, what would make the bottom be 0? And that's not as easy to see for this one. So we take 3x plus 5 and we set it equal to 0 to see what would make that factor 0. When you do that, you subtract 5 to the other side, getting negative 5, and divide by 3. So that becomes negative 5/3. So the excluded value is negative 5/3. So basically, you take each factor from the bottom and set it equal to 0 before you cancel anything, and that's what gives you an excluded value. In the second one, when we factor, we get m minus 3 and m minus 5. If m were 3, the bottom would be 0, because 3 minus 3 is 0. If m were 5, the bottom would be 0, because 5 minus 5 is 0. That's the reason why m can't be 3 and m can't be 5. Looking at number 3, after you factor, before you cancel, you look for what numbers will make the bottom be 0. N plus 10 and n plus 1. Negative 10, negative 1. The bottom would be 0 if n were either one of those numbers. So therefore, the equation wouldn't exist if n were negative 10 or n were negative 1. So therefore, we have to say this is our answer as long as n isn't negative 10 and n isn't negative 1. Finally, when you look at number 4, you see for number 4, the bottom is 6 times 2x plus 1. 6 is just a number. There's no x with it. So there's no way to make that factor be 0. So we don't worry about the 6. You look at the 2x plus 1, and we say, ooh, we got to make that be 0, but that's not as easy as n plus 10, negative 10. 2x plus 1, we have to do a little work. 2x plus 1 equal to 0. Minus 1 to the other side, divide by 2, you get negative 1/2. Hopefully this clarified excluded values.